Sugar doesn't improve coffee. It merely masks what you're not used to tasting. By removing sugar from the world's most consumed beverage after water, you're not just altering the flavor. You're shifting metabolic processes, sensory perception, and even eating behaviors. Drinking coffee without sugar for a month is, according to recent studies, a simple habit that can trigger noticeable changes, from palate sensitivity to how the body handles energy. But what exactly changes? What has science observed in people who make this choice? That's what we're going to explore now, in a practical, objective, and evidence-based way. The first week without sugar and coffee doesn't start in the stomach. It starts in the brain. For years, sugar has conditioned your palate to accept only softened flavors. Removing that element from a naturally bitter drink is, for many, a small sensory trauma. What happens biologically? The brain's reward system, involving dopamine, misses the spike caused by sugar. This can lead to mild irritation, impatience, or even headaches in the early days, especially if you consumed a lot of sugar overall. It's not the coffee that's the problem. It's the absence of what the body learned to expect. Additionally, your taste buds aren't yet calibrated to detect nuances in coffee's flavor. It just tastes bad. But this strangeness is temporary. Studies show that the human palate begins adapting to new stimuli in about 5 to 7 days. In other words, you start noticing flavors that sugar previously drowned out, more acidic, earthy, or fruity notes depending on the bean. Physiologically, the first week also brings a slight reduction in daily calorie intake. A coffee with 2 teaspoons of sugar 3 times a day adds up to around 90 to 100 calories. It might seem minor, but over a month, that's about 3,000 fewer calories, the equivalent of nearly half a kilogram of body fat. Another key change starts in the gut. The microbiota, the community of intestinal bacteria, begins reacting to the sugar reduction. This might cause mild digestive discomfort in some people, but it usually passes quickly. Studies suggest this transition can favor beneficial bacteria linked to metabolic regulation. By the end of the first week, most people who persist notice a slight improvement in focus and energy, but the most remarkable shifts are still ahead. In the second week, the body begins adapting more deeply to the absence of sugar and coffee. One of the most interesting effects is the change in appetite and satiety, which doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of a hormonal shift. Excess sugar, even in frequent small doses like in coffee, can interfere with the production of leptin and ghrelin, hormones that control hunger and fullness. By eliminating this recurring sugar, the hormonal system operates with greater precision, directly influencing eating behavior. It's common at this stage to notice fewer episodes of emotional hunger, especially in the mid-afternoon. This happens because the body experiences fewer blood glucose spikes and crashes, stabilizing energy levels throughout the day. In short, you feel less need to snack on sweets or high-calorie foods between meals. Black coffee, meanwhile, starts exerting its natural effects more effectively. It stimulates the central nervous system, enhances alertness, and can even slightly boost basal metabolism, according to studies in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. Without sugar competing in digestion, caffeine works more cleanly. On the palate, the adaptation curve continues. Many people report at this point that they've started enjoying the true taste of coffee, especially with higher quality beans. The natural sweetness in certain coffees, previously imperceptible, begins to emerge. Another intriguing detail. Research indicates that reducing sugar in beverages tends to decrease sugar intake in other foods as well. This isn't conscious, it's a reflex of sensory re-education and reduced dependence on sweetness for eating pleasure. By the end of the second week, beyond greater mental clarity, many report a subtle lightness after meals, a direct result of less sugar, better digestion, and reduced energy fluctuations. In the third week, the deeper effects of withdrawing sugar from coffee begin manifesting in metabolism and mood. At this point, the body isn't just reacting to the change, it's adapting to a new internal operating pattern. Let's start with metabolism. Without constant sugar in coffee, daily glycemic load decreases, meaning the pancreas works with less strain. This improves insulin sensitivity, the hormone that removes glucose from the blood and delivers it to cells. Better sensitivity means more efficient energy use. Studies show that after 3 weeks of significant sugar reduction, there are improvements in triglyceride and LDL cholesterol levels, the bad kind, especially in people with diets previously heavy in sweets and simple carbs. In other words, sugar-free coffee, as part of a habit shift, contributes real effects to the lipid profile. Psychologically, something curious occurs. The emotional bond with sugar weakens. Those sweet rewards that seem necessary during daily breaks no longer feel as essential. This happens because dopamine receptors in the brain, previously saturated by frequent sugar, start recalibrating. It can lead to more stable well-being, with fewer abrupt mood swings. Some people report less anxiety and greater tolerance for stress, not by magic, but by indirectly breaking the sugar vicious cycle. Eat something sweet, feel good briefly, then energy crashes and irritation follow, leading to more consumption. Removing sugar from coffee starts dismantling this loop. Taste perception keeps evolving. Foods that once seemed bland now taste sweeter. This isn't psychological, it's physiological. With less sugar in the routine, palate sensitivity expands, and the brain learns to detect what was previously muffled. By the end of the third week, those who persist aren't just forcing it, they're reaping rewards, and often they don't want to go back. In the fourth week, what began as a test or challenge solidifies into a habit. Sugar-free coffee stops being a sacrifice and becomes the new normal. At this stage, effects on the body and eating behavior become more evident and sustainable. The palate is practically re-educated. This means the brain has learned to identify, interpret, and value flavors previously masked by sugar. Not just in coffee, but in everyday foods. Fruits taste sweeter. Ultra-processed, overly sugary products now cause discomfort. This perceptual shift is a cornerstone of mindful eating. Metabolically, those who maintain sugar-free coffee for 4 weeks may see measurable results. Small weight losses, around 0.5 to 1 kilo depending on context, reduced bloating, and improved daily energy. Not because coffee slims you, but because removing sugar avoids insulin spikes, curbs compensatory hunger, and helps the body run more efficiently. Another key effect is glycemic control. In people with prediabetes or insulin resistance, switching sweetened coffees to black over a month has shown, in clinical studies, reductions in fasting glucose levels. This is especially relevant since many adults drink 2 to 5 cups of coffee daily. Mood tends to stabilize. The brain functions better with less glycemic fluctuation, and sugar absence reduces mental fatigue and brain fog, that mild confusion or end-of-day tiredness. Finally, there's the gain in autonomy. By no longer relying on sugar to make food palatable, you reclaim control over your own taste. This sensory reconquest is more transformative than it seems. It's not about cutting pleasure. It's about realizing it still exists and might be more authentic when not disguised. After 4 weeks of sugar-free coffee, a lot changes, and almost none of it is just about the drink's taste. What seemed like a detail at the start reveals itself as a starting point for real transformations in metabolism, food relationship, and even mood. You train your palate, cut calories, stabilize energy, and gradually break the automatic sweet comfort dependence. Science shows that ditching sugar in coffee requires no huge sacrifices, but can yield cumulative benefits. And most interestingly, when the change comes with awareness, it tends to last. If you've tried or are considering it, pay attention to what shifts beyond the cup. It could be a great entry point to review other daily choices. Now tell me, could you go a full month drinking coffee without sugar? Or have you been doing it for ages and noticed any of these changes? Share your experience in the comments. It can help a lot of people just starting out. And if this content helped you in any way, consider subscribing to the channel. It really makes a difference here. If you want to support more videos like this, drop a super thanks below. That way, I know it's worth keeping science-based info coming as clearly as possible.